Okay, so now we're up to
Verse 4.
verse 4, chapter 34, verse 4. One of the most
33.
beautiful, chapter 33, verse 4 is Os Haberacha. This pasuk is supposed to be the verse that is the first words that a child says. Torah tziva lanu Moshe morasha kilas Yaakov. I don't know who wrote the song that every child in who goes to a Jewish day school or Jewish nursery learns. Torah tziva lanu Moshe morasha kilas Yaakov. I don't think anybody wrote these songs, but then Levi Goldstein's father, Pinchas Goldstein's father, wrote the song Hashem is here, Hashem is here, Hashem is truly anywhere. So somebody wrote these nursery songs, and they should get credit for being the first words that so many children say. So
someone related to Helene Riesler
probably wrote it. Torah. A lot of the children's songs were written. So just so you know, a lot of the children's songs were written by my wife's Bobby's sister. And Shirley, she wrote one morning King Pharaoh woke in his bed. She wrote once there was a wicked man and Haman was his name, sir.
Ooh, that's
she
a big
wrote
one.
She wrote bang, 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 bang your hammers.
No, the previous one was her biggest hit.
I think one morning King Pharaoh woke in his bed was pretty big too. Okay. Torah tziva lanu Moshe. Moshe gave the Torah that Moshe commanded us. Morasha is the heritage for Kehilas Yaakov. It's the heritage of the congregation of Jacob. What does this mean? Rashi says, Torah asher tziva lanu Moshe, the Torah that Moshe commanded us, morashahi. It's a heritage for Kehilas Yaakov. Achazanua v'lo na'azvena. We held on to it and we will not abandon it. What's the difference between an inheritance and a heritage?
Heritage is yours no matter what. I think
inheritance you could give away.
Yeah.
An inheritance can only go to one person in the family. A heritage goes to everybody. An inheritance, the person who gives it has it right away. A heritage, you don't even have to have it, but to give it over. So they were being commanded the Torah by Moshe, and they're giving it over as a heritage. And also, of course, when is the other time that the word morasha appears? It only appears one other time in the Tanakh, and it appears at the very, very beginning of the Exodus story. If you remember, the very, very beginning of the Exodus story, it's called that the Jewish people have a relationship. I think it's the beginning of Parashas Va'era. We're told the Torah is Eretz Yisrael is a morasha. That's the very beginning. Okay, yes, Jerry.
Sentence number 4 ends with the word Yaakov. The last word in pasuk number 5 is Yisrael. By now, the Jewish people are called Yisrael. So why in the fourth verse we use Yaakov?
It's a very, very good question. Why? First of all, here it's called the Kehilas Yaakov, the congregation of Yaakov, and the question that the commentaries discuss is why is sometimes Jacob called Jacob and why is he sometimes called Israel? And the typical answer is that when he's referring to Jacob as an individual, he's called Jacob, but as a national, he's called Yisrael. But that wouldn't really fit here. So the question is, why does it change from Kehilas Yaakov to Shiftei Yisrael? I don't know the answer, Jerry. It's an excellent question. I'm not surprised that you're asking an excellent question, but right now I don't have the answer. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Thank you.
Good question. It's interesting. I'll just read this because
Rabbi Steinzal says?
Yeah. So this well-known verse defines the relationship of Israel to the Torah. On the one hand, the Torah is the Torah of Moses, as it was transmitted to Israel through him. On the other hand, it's the inheritance of the entire congregation of Jacob. The sages teach that this should be the first verse that the father and you'll implicate them. But yeah, so it's like you said, it's to the entire people. It's
right. So maybe like working off of that, we could say maybe it goes back to the relationship that we have with the Torah. We have to have an individual relationship with the Torah and a national relationship with the Torah. We as individuals and also as national.
And the individual
and also as a kehilah.
Yeah, so it adds on to the kid's first word is the individual's first word. So
Right.
Yaakov and then Yisrael is the national.
It's also a beautiful thing. Kehilas Yaakov. Yeah. Okay. And then it became he Bishurin Melech. And then he became king over Jeshurun. Pita Sefer Shayam, when the number of the nations gathered, Yachad Shiftei Israel, together with the tribes of Israel. Rashi says, Vahi Bishurin Melech, Vahi HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he became refers to God. Bishurin Melech, Tamid Ol Malchuso Aleim. The yoke of his rulership is constantly over them. I'm not sure what that means.
Well, what's the translation of the word Yeshurun?
Yeshurun is usually like a reference to
yoke, sovereignty.
No, but he Bishurun Melech. He became the king of Jeshurun. So
Yeshurun is another name for Israel. It's one of the 70 names that Balaturi mentions in Balotcha.
He became king over Yeshurun. Rashi doesn't explain it here, why Yeshurun is the name of Israel.
I'm saying in Balotcha, when it says 5 times Bnei Israel in the same verse, the Balaturim has a list of the 70 names that the people of Israel is called. And there's also a midrash that there's 70 names for Hashem and 70 names for Jerusalem.
Yeah, I was going to say that Yeshurun was one of the names of Jerusalem, but you're saying it's one of the names of Israel?
Yeah.
That's how Stein's all.
You want me to bring that up?
As Israel.
Oh, okay, fine. What did you say, Rabbi Yosef?
You want me to bring it up?
No. I take your word for it. And also, Seth just said that Rabbi Stein's, I'll translate it that way. May he be Yeshurun, so the king of Yeshurun is the yoke of his rulership is constantly over them. Who is the king of Yeshurun? That is, who is that a reference to? So that it's a reference to God. God is the king of Yeshurun.
But where does Rashi get the idea that? How does he introduce the word yoke? Why?
Because it says Vayhi B'Shurin Melech Tamid Ol Malchuso Aleim, meaning to say that the yoke is always upon him, because he's saying that it doesn't refer to a specific event. Well, you can mean it, but it refers to at all times. God is always the king over us. So,
but yeah, well, I suppose I'm.
Or else it could, like, where does it mean? That means he's always our king. Yoke meaning God is always our king. Even when we're in the hands of the other nations, God is our king. Even when, no matter where we are, our king is God.
Oh, okay.
So, behita safe, bechol hita safe, Rashi cheshbon asitam. And with the numbers of the nations are gathering, at any gathering of the sum of the calculation of their gathering. All right. Hello, Bill. Bechol hita safe, behita safe means at any gathering, Rosh A cheshbon asifatam, the sum of the calculation of their gathering. That is, the individuals are to be counted in their gathering. Rashi kamo kitisas rosh. Rashi means ru'uyan elu shavarchem. These people are worthy that I should bless them. Rashi am, meaning the heads of these people. When you count them, davar acher beita seif. Rashi gives another explanations. Beita seif yachad baguda achas v'shalom b'neihem hu malkam lo kashesh machokas b'neihem. This is what it means. This is what Rashi is saying. Rashi is saying, when is God the king over Israel? When all the people gather together amongst the tribes of Israel. When there's shalom in the land amongst everyone. When there's a peace amongst them. When there's no discord. That's when God is king over all of Israel. But if there's machokas b'neihem, then there is no king over, then he's not our king. Oh, very powerful idea. You see that what that means? Of course, on the other hand, machokas is not necessarily a bad thing sometimes, because that's the whole basis of the Talmud is machokas. Machokas l'shem shemayim, right? Very good, Mordechai. Oh, Jeffrey, do you see our beautiful sukkah out there? We'll admire it after. And so it says, Yechi Ruvain v'al Yamos v'hi mispar Yehuda. So now we're going into blessing all the different tribes. He's going to bless all the tribes. It says, Yechi Ruvain v'al Yamos. Let Ruvain live and he shall not die. V'hi misav mispar. And may his men be in the count. What does that mean? Yechi Ruvain. That was seems like such a random thing to say to Ruvain. That we're in chapter 33, verse 6. Let Ruvain live, ba'olam hazeh, ba'al yamos, and not die, u'olam haba, and not die in the world to come. Shelo yizkarlo ma'aseh bila. Do not remind the Ishanap, and when he dies, don't remind Ruvain of what he did with the actions of Bila. Of course, Ruvain is already dead by this point. It seems like this is a very, very direct personal blessing to a dead man.
It's talking to the entire Shevet.
But the entire, right, that's what Nachmanides writes. Nachmanides says that Moshe's prayer for life, for Ruvain in this world was obviously meant for the tribe of Ruvain, because Ruvain died long ago. So Moshe is asking that the tribe not suffer death as a result of the sin of their forefather. So that's all of a sudden, by the way, there's no segue. Goes straight into the tribes. Yechi Ruvain ba'al Yamos, let Ruvain live and not die. V'hi misav mispar, and let him be count. You had a question, Jerry?
Yes, I thought that the smallest tribe was Judah, not Reuben.
No, the smallest tribe was Shimon.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. So this sentence, this pasuk, then is wrong.
Well, where does it say he's the smallest?
Though few be his numbers, few meaning less than the other
so
tribe.
That's why Rashi translates it differently. Rashi does not translate it like that. Rashi says v'hi mitav mispar means nimnin b'minyan sha'ar achiv. Let them be counted in the counting of the rest of his brothers. That's what it means. Let him be counted in the counting of the rest of his brothers. Dugma hizo. Kinyan Shnei Vayishkaves Bilah Vayu Bnei Yaakov Shneim Asar Shelo Yatzam Min HaMinyan. He wants him to still be counted amongst the rest of the brothers, even though he did this. It can mean men who are easily counted, but Rashi is saying Vihi Misav Mispar, meaning to say that it literally means men of account, but Rashi is saying it means men who are easily counted, but that would be a curse. So it says, "V'hi misav b'mispar," that you be able to count them, meaning to say, don't exclude them from the count. And that Rashi says an example of this is after Reuven slept with Bilah, or after the verse says he slept with Bilah. It says, "Vayu b'nei Yaakov shnei masar." Jacob's sons were 12. So yatzam in a minyan. That we might have thought Reuven would have been eliminated from the tribes after he sinned with Bilah. So Rashi is saying he cannot be excluded from the count. That's what Moses is praying for. That even though Reuven did this tremendous sin, we don't want him to be excluded from the counting of the tribes.
Then they also lop on, and Steinsaltz says because of their active participation in the Korach rebellion, that their ranks were diminished, and this sort of replenishes their ranks by saying they should live.
And who does he attribute? They're very beautiful. Who does he attribute that to?
I don't know. Do you see where the footnotes
In
were
the back. There you go to the back of the book. He lists footnotes by chapter.
Yeah, but the pshat is metav means he's dead. No, like
right.
that,
You can.
that
Rashi,
would fit very well into the idea of Katan and Aviram.
The pshat would be the opposite. The pshat would be the opposite of what Rashi says. The pshat would be, okay, let Reuven not die, but let him be few in count. But Rashi says, no, let him be amongst the count. Rashi almost gives an opposite explanation to the pshat.
Right. So that I'm saying that all of these blessings are in the allegorical or like the song shape, right? So that's why I'm saying that even though he suffered personally from the Taran of Aviram and Eliav before he repented, he's still praying for these people that won't influence the whole tribe. That he was so kind and so compassionate to these people that he knew that they were from Reuven, but he still wants to make sure that nobody thinks that he has anything personal vendetta against
Beautiful. Beautiful. I hadn't thought about that.
The Or Chaim is the source.
Or Chaim, tremendous. You know, the Or Chaim was the chief rabbi of Morocco, and then he went to Yerushalayim. Or Chaim is one of the very few people in the Jewish tradition are given the title Hakadosh, the Holy One. Or Chaim Hakadosh he's called. The 19th century, great 19th century rabbi. And then it says Vezot from Morocco. Vezos lihuda vayomar, and this to Judah, and he said, this is the blessing Moshe gives to Judah. Shema Hashem kol Yehuda, listen to the voice of Judah, ve'el amo tivi'enu, and to his people shall you bring him. Yadav ravlo, may his hands fight for him. Ve'ezer mitzarav tiyeh, and may you be a helper against his enemies. Okay, so what does that mean? No idea. Let's look at what Rashi says. First of all, we have the first question. Rashi says it doesn't make any sense. Why does it go Ruvain then Yehuda? It should be Ruvain, Shimon, Levi, and then Yehuda. So it says Samach Yehuda LeRuvain Bimnei Shneim Hodu Al Kil Kol Shabiyadam. Both Reuven and Judah share, the fact that they both admitted their sins. As it states, Asher Chachamim Yagidu, that the wise declared, Lahem Levadam, V'lo Avar Zar B'tocham, and no stranger passed between them. So meaning to say that both Judah and Reuven confessed their sins publicly. Where does Reuven confess his sins publicly? I guess he cries out after Yosef was sold. So, and Judah also says, I am the Satami many, she is more righteous than me. So both Reuven and Judah declared their sins and did not deny it. Okay, Deborah. All right, we got you here, Deborah. That's good.
I'm just wanting to look at
The sources, okay. Another explanation. The whole time the Jewish people were in the wilderness, Judah's bones were rolling around because of the excommunication he had taken upon himself. As it says, so what caused Judah to confess? Judah did, meaning to say, because Judah confessed, that caused Reuben to confess. And so therefore, what was his sin? Because he said, I will sin to you forever if I don't return Benjamin. And even though he returned Benjamin, he was nevertheless excommunicated. So we see from here a conditional banishment takes place even if the condition is not fulfilled. So Judah's bones were rolling around, but once Reuven confessed, then in merit of that, Moshe said, because Reuven confessed, Judah should be forgiven. But that's really powerful. But let's stop here to do the mincha prayer. But I want to say something else. Normally, I'm not strict